Some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia.
You wanted the best, you got the best. From my home studio on Long Island, New York, welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto, and today we have a longer deep dive on just a question I was pondering about live rock music and the state of rock music. So since we're going along here, crack open a drink in your Ian Scotto Rocks mug, which I will be doing, in your Ian Scotto Rocks t-shirt. Check out the Etsy store in the link below. I'm drinking one of these half days. They're definitely not a sponsor of the show. I don't drink alcohol. You know, if you do, feel free to indulge. I haven't in quite a while. But yeah, I'm enjoying these prebiotic teas. They're good. So with that, let's get started. Do bands still enjoy performing live? On the surface level, the answer to many might seem like an obvious hell yes. Who wouldn't want to get up on stage, rock out, and do what you love to crowds of adoring fans? Money for nothing and your chicks for free, as the famous Dire Straits song put it. The average person out there is working a job that they probably hate, slaving away to the system, just to be able to pay rent and get by. And when bands complain about life on the road, to many of us, it's like, suck it up, buttercup. What in the world do you have to complain about? But on a deeper level, when you really examine it, the answer to this question isn't so obvious. And that's what we're going to dive into today. First, in order to really give a definitive answer on this question I'm pondering, you'd have to break touring bands down into three different categories. You've got the bands that have made it in every definable sense. They played at full capacity stadiums and arenas, have millions of fans worldwide that practically worship them, live in rock star mansions, and can buy a Lamborghini with about as much thought on the purchase as you or I think about whether or not to pay extra for guac when we walk into a Chipotle. Then you've got the bands that made it on some level years back, but now they're playing to much more humble crowds in clubs, bars, and sometimes fairs and casinos. Yet they're still able to make a living being out on the road and playing music to diehards who still ride with them after all these years. Last, you've got the bands that never really made it, have a cult fan base, have to work other jobs in order to skate by, but still manage to find a way to play shows on the road. We'll start with that last category because that's the easiest one to answer. Those bands definitely still enjoy playing shows. If they didn't, they wouldn't be doing it. They're either making little money, breaking even, or in some cases even losing money between costs to travel and other expenses. They're definitely not living in rock star luxury, traveling by van, and are most times sleeping in the van, unable to afford a hotel room which would eat into their profits, if there even are any profits to speak of. If you want a glimpse into the life of bands in this category, I would highly recommend you check out the documentary Anvil, the story of Anvil. But anyway, despite the crap these bands have to endure, they wouldn't do it anymore if they didn't love it on some level. So next you've got the bands that made it to some extent, but are now long past the height of their fame and are still out there on the road, or in some cases they do what are called fly-in dates, which we'll get into. Since most of my audience are fellow hair metal fanatics, think of groups still playing in this category like Slaughter, Dokken, Winger, and Vixen. You may think, well, the money must be good enough if they're still out there doing it, right? That's really not always the case. Let's take, for example, Vixen, who only has one original member left in the group. Cher Ross is one of the originals who left Vixen back in 2022 and has been very open about why and what she's up to now. She said in interviews that she certainly wasn't making the rock star type money people would expect. Keep in mind that Vixen's two biggest hits weren't written by them, so no royalties there for that, and she admits that she was sick of the road. She now lives in sunny South Florida and is actually selling real estate.
These are the three jobs you'll have bottoming out in life. These are the last three jobs you'll ever have. Real estate, stand-up comedy. Those are the last three. Nobody picks real estate first. Nobody's 8 years old going, one day I'll show apartments in Thai Town. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody's got a friend that's like, dude, I'm getting into real estate. And you're like, I didn't know your life was that f***ed up. I'm sorry, man. You need some money?
Jokes aside, going into real estate is not as uncommon as you may think for former rock stars. Jim Hocking from For the Fallen Dreams no longer tours with the group, and that's what he does, but that's a band more in the first category, just an example though. There's others I can think of as well. When the all-female metal band Kitty stopped touring back in 2012, drummer Mercedes Lander went into real estate in order to make a living. Unfortunately, when websites like Metal Sucks wrote about this in a not-so-favorable light, some douchebag fans decided to call her real estate office constantly, making it hard for her to continue with the job. Bandmate and sister Morgan Lander spoke about this in an interview with London Groove magazine at the time, saying, "To put it plainly, it came to a point where doing the band full-time became too much financially, especially touring in the States. There just isn't enough demand or money for us to support ourselves fully with the band." Then speaking on the real estate ordeal, she added, "We all have jobs or whatever, and to me, it's not that big of a deal. I feel bad for my sister because she went and got her real estate license, and metal websites were like writing articles about her like, oh, this is so funny. It's not funny. Everyone has a fucking job. Just because you have to go and find other sources, does that make you a failure? Absolutely not. We made a conscious decision. We understand that nothing is going to last forever. And while we do obviously have a wildly loyal fan base, the Indiegogo campaign is a reflection of that. The way things are, we're not making enough money. Even if we toured 9 months out of the year, it's not enough to pay our bills. Even having to do things like pay for accountants and lawyers and that sort of thing, it just started to become overwhelming. And it's like it's time to try to make some money other ways, so that maybe we can continue with the band and put that money we've made into it. Unlike other bands, though, Kitty's story actually does have a happy ending, or a positive second act, because after a decade of being away, they'd come back to do some major festivals and ultimately tour, and the band is more in demand now than ever before. I actually saw their show in Brooklyn last year, completely sold out, which is a far cry from what they were drawing years back. This would get into a whole other topic we can talk about in a future video maybe, about how bands going away for a few years and coming back can really do some great things for their draw. If fans can see you play near them 2 or 3 times a year, the excitement for that band is sure to die out at some point. Go away a few years though, and people will be amped to see you again. But I digress. One band I'm really familiar with is Slaughter, and that's because I'm not just a fan, but I became friends with Mark after I set him up with my former boss Navy SEAL Brandon Webb's Red Circle Foundation when he wanted to put out his solo song Never Given Up out to benefit a military charity. Slaughter formed in 1990 after Dana Strum and Mark Slaughter split from the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and though their last charting single came out 33 years ago at this point, they've still managed to play live consistently. They've had some very brief hiatuses as a band, but by and large, they've played shows throughout all these years. Unlike other bands, they've managed to make it work money-wise because they actually rarely tour. What they do are called fly-in dates, where every weekend a venue, oftentimes casinos or fairs, will pay them a guarantee, fly them out, take care of their hotel for the night and other expenses, they play, and they get paid a nice chunk of change. Now, getting to know Mark, I learned that the rest of his week he works on other projects, including a lot of great voiceover work he's been a part of, including for shows you may remember, like Animaniacs. But back to our question of, do they still enjoy it? If you look at Slaughter's set list, it actually hasn't changed a bunch since their heyday, and they haven't released a studio album as a band in over 25 years. If they still enjoy making music, why not put out a new album? I know that the obvious answer would be that most people love bands of this era for the nostalgia, and not so much what they're doing now. But as an artist, if you actually do love it, why not do it for the love? Bands like LA Guns are still putting out new music, and a lot of it has been killer. I can't speak for the members of Slaughter, and this is purely my own inference, but I think a lot of what they do is a business they've kept chugging along. It's still profitable for them. They still have a great connection with the fans. But if they really still loved making music as a band, I think they'd have put something new out after 25 years. It would probably make the live show less routine and monotonous to some degree. Also in this category, you've got a band like Dokken, still putting out some really great music. But as for the live show, Don's the sole remaining original member, and his voice has seen better days. He doesn't shy away from this. I'm not breaking any news here saying that. Now, I've heard Don on Eddie Trunk mention that he doesn't need the money and that he has other ways he makes money without disclosing more, so this may not apply to him specifically, but he's one of many touring artists who have been doing this for decades and decades, now in his 70s, struggling to perform both physically and vocally. And people will say, why not tap out from your career with some dignity? Once again, not specifically Don, but a lot of these artists still do need the money. And if you've been in a touring band for all these years, that's often all you know. A lot of these bands broke right out of high school. They never learned any other transferable job skills. And if you haven't had a hit in 35, 40 years, there aren't any up-and-coming artists out of places like Nashville looking to tap you for some songwriting help. So, what other options are there for these guys? Work at Home Depot? I'm not knocking anyone who works at Home Depot if that's you, but it'd be a hard pill to swallow for many of these artists. So this then leads us to the category of the true rock stars that are still going. Members of bands like Metallica, Iron Maiden, and U2. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to subscribe. You know, we're trying to build this thing. We're trying to be bigger than Mr. Beast, right? That's a pretty humble goal. Have like 1 billion subscribers. No, I mean, if you do subscribe now, I'm going to remember you as an OG follower, and I'll personally buy you a Lamborghini. So that's enough of a reason to subscribe. Yeah, you have my guarantee on that. But yeah, I appreciate any help you can give, comments, like the video, all that stuff. I don't have a members section or a Patreon. I'm trying to make all of the content free, but I can only do that with your support. So I actually thought of the idea for this video, not from a rock band, but actually a former rap star who made some very candid comments about this subject. Andre 3000 was a member of the ultra-successful rap group Outkast. If you're not at all a rap fan and aren't familiar somehow, Outkast was huge. Over 25 million albums sold in the US alone, 3 singles that charted #1 on Billboard, and 2025 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yes, I know it grinds a lot of people's gears that rap groups get inducted into the Hall, but that's another subject. So at the height of Outkast's fame, Andre 3000 decided to stop rapping, and the group hasn't performed live in over a decade. Why? A few years back, he had a very candid conversation on a podcast with Rick Rubin where he talked about getting up on stage in front of thousands of screaming fans, performing a song he'd done hundreds of times before, and instead of being in the moment, he was on total autopilot and was actually thinking to himself, when I get back to the hotel room, what do I want to eat tonight? It was in that moment that he realized he didn't love it anymore. And shortly after, Outkast called it quits. Another major rap artist, Tyler the Creator, more recently went viral with a clip of him speaking candidly as well about how touring has taken a toll on him. Here's some of that.
Touring now at 34 is not as fun as it was at 20. I'm mentally drained. I'm physically okay. I am on stage for 90 minutes alone, nonstop movement, but I'm pretty much in shape, so I'm fine. But man, the mental toll it takes on you, the unfamiliarity, a different bed every night. After a while, it gets a bit stressful, and my temperament is Los Angeles, so wide streets, low buildings. You see the sky all the time. A lot of places out here in Europe is it feels claustrophobic. It's people on the street all the time. It's a lot, and it feels heavy. I can't go anywhere without a bunch of security with me, so the stress that I have on my body, because I just cannot get solitude, is a lot. What makes up for it is that these shows are incredible.
In the rock world, artists at the mega level have revealed similar things. I remember back when Motley Crue reunited in 2005, back when VH1 actually had some shows geared toward rock fans, they did a special about the reunion. And kind of similar to Metallica's Some Kind of Monster, they let fans in on some of the meetings the band was having at the time. In that footage, Tommy Lee got very real about his feelings, revealing, and I'm paraphrasing here, I can't really get excited about playing Shout at the Devil for the 9 millionth time. And that was 20 years ago he said that. Do you think he really enjoys playing these songs now for well over 40 years? I don't, to be honest. I think those were his real feelings. And I'd imagine those are still his real feelings, even more so now. So why do it? The answer is pretty obvious. But how much money do these guys need? Well, I think at a certain point, these guys get addicted to their lifestyle. Sure, they have enough money to live comfortably. But when you're a rock star used to buying multiple properties, any car you want at any given time, have high maintenance wives and kids, that money flow needs to keep coming. Metallica has done something really cool in recent years, and that's that they are now doing 2 shows in every city they play and not repeating any songs. They even have different openers each night to keep it fresh for fans attending both nights. Plus, Metallica takes plenty of time off and aren't really touring. They do those 2 shows, break for a while, and then do 2 shows in some other city weeks later. They get to be home most of the year while also satisfying the fans. Most bands aren't Metallica though. And other than maybe the Rolling Stones, I can't think of any other band that can get away with doing it this way while still bringing in millions and millions of dollars. Even so, do they really enjoy playing Enter Sandman still? I'm not in the band, and even I'm personally sick of hearing that song. How many times have you turned on classic rock radio or been somewhere with classic rock radio on and heard Exit Light? Growing up a baseball fan, I remember every time all-time great closing pitcher Mariano Rivera came out to pitch for the Yankees, again, we'd hear Exit Light. Then, when Billy Wagner came on with the Mets, he decided to use it too. Exit Light. Now, can you imagine how it is for the band? According to Setlist.fm, Metallica has played the song Enter Sandman 1,433 times. No matter how thankful you are for what the song has done for your career, I don't believe you can get excited after doing it that many times. Still, they get to play to stadiums of adoring Metallica fanatics. That has to be a rush, right? I even question that as well. When you've been doing it for so long, that becomes your baseline normal. And it's no longer exciting, no matter how long you once dreamt about this reality in years past that you now get to live every day. I've gotten to do some pretty cool stuff in my own career. I worked alongside Dee Snider for a number of years when I started out at SiriusXM, and I remember at first it was like, holy shit, it's Dee Snider. But after a while, Dee was just a guy I knew, and it was just a job. A pretty cool job, but a job nonetheless. And sometimes it was exciting, other days it was just a grind. For many of you watching, you're probably like, boo-hoo, so what? You're not going to shed tears for Lars Ulrich, right? Just enjoy that you still have that relevancy and get to do it at that level. That's certainly valid. But I think for many of us who are nerds of the genre like me, we just want to believe they're still up there and having a blast. Recently, I came across some of the video of Faster Pussycat closing out one of the final shows at the soon-to-be-defunct venue, Counts Vamped in Vegas. You're seeing this on screen. Sebastian Bach got up on stage with them, and as you can see here, there is no denying that these guys are up there having a fucking blast. That's what we want to see. I'll also mention this. Recently, Turnstile played a show in Brooklyn. I've been really into those guys, and they've been a more exciting band to watch in recent years, and you can see it's just an electric crowd. I believe those guys enjoy it too. So, believe it or not, Violent J from the Insane Clown Posse, who's a big rock fan, spoke about this specific topic in an interview of why he doesn't want to perform with the group Twisted that used to be a part of their label.
What they've done to us is so fucked up. We can't play that no more for anybody. You know, like, it's not real. We're not gonna cheat everybody. We're not gonna fake the funk. You know what I'm saying? Like David Lee Roth hating Van Halen and getting up there and performing every night for the money. You know, I don't want to see that. Like Slash and Axl Rose. Everybody at that concert watches for any interaction from them. You know what I mean? Because that's what they want to see, that they're really down. You know, I read in Rolling Stone that fucking Axl Rose came up and tickled Slash. That's why they wrote about it, because they want to hear about that. They love each other. You know, they want to know they love each other. You get what I'm saying, right? Well, us performing with them right now is impossible. It's not real at all. You want to see that? You hear what I'm saying? It's totally fucked, man, and we don't understand what they're doing.
I have that same mentality. If you don't love it anymore, just call it quits with some grace. But we all have bills to pay. And to quote the great Ted DiBiase, everyone has a price. So what do you think? Hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive. And yeah, I love it when I see a show and you see guys get up on stage, as you saw there, like Faster Pussycat and Sebastian Bach, and it's like, you can't fake that. They are loving it. And I think that just makes for such a better show. Or that Turnstile show I showed you guys. You could kind of see when bands are going through the motions and they're past their heyday, and we've all seen it plenty of times. But yeah, let me know what you think. And if you like that clip of Violent J talking about Guns N' Roses, if you didn't know, ICP did a song with Slash way back around 1998 or 97. I don't have it in front of me, but I did a whole deep dive on that, where I actually do have the facts in front of me. And you can watch that right here if you click on that video.